Welcome to this episode called I Love You and Fuck Off. So, this episode today is all about boundaries. And wow, there's so much I could talk about this, because this literally has been my main learning over the last years, and especially the last year, this current year, 2025. And there are so many learnings that I would like to share, and also questions that helped me to reflect on that I would also like to share with you today. So first of all, there's this myth. There's this myth in the New Age community that I was also holding on to very tightly, which is we are all love and light, and when there's something in the outside that triggers you, meaning it makes you feel angry, sad, annoyed, whatever, you are the problem. You are the problem because it tells you there's something that is not resolved within you. This is why it triggers you. Because if it didn't trigger you, like if this person did an action and it just didn't trigger you, it means there's nothing to resolve. But if it triggers you, it means there's something in you that is wrong. And I agree to a certain degree with this. I will talk about this in a second. But ultimately, over the past years, I can tell you from my experience, this kind of attitude brought me into a situation, or into many situations, where I ended up in complete self-sacrifice, complete self-betrayal, and absolutely not speaking and living my truth. Okay, let's start with what part of it do I agree with. So I agree with the part, if we go into our love and light energy and we look, at our beingness from the lens of, okay, we are on a deeper level, or on a deepest levels, we are one. We are pure consciousness expressed uniquely in these bodies that we have, but ultimately we are all one, and we are all mirrors for each other here in this three-dimensional reality. So yes, I absolutely believe that. I absolutely feel that in my bones, that this is true. Yet, now is the question, what do we do with this? So, when there's someone who, let's say there's a situation where, I don't know, you are, for example, following someone on Instagram, and for example, you are, let me think about what are the most common triggers for people. Let's say you are, okay, it's Christmas now. You are at a Christmas table and you hear your parents talk about how bad the neighbor is, or one of your parents. And you hear someone talk all the time badly about other people. And that's basically all they have to say all day long. And it annoys you, because you're like, why are you talking about other people? I don't care about other people's life. Why do you care about other people's life? So there's something in you that makes you feel annoyed, maybe even angry with your parent or whoever is talking about it. So now we can look at this example from the perspective of love and light, from the perspective of New Age spirituality, and be like, okay, even if it annoys you, even if it triggers you, you need to become pure love. And that means that you need to just accept whatever is coming your way. if your parent triggers you talking about bad people, it's actually not your parent. It is you. Something in you must be wrong. So let's practice meditation. Let's practice whatever you want to practice. But obviously there's an issue inside of you that other people and their behavior trigger you. So you are not enough enlightened. Yeah, you're enlightened. You're not enough in love. You are bad, basically. You are not enough, basically. And then you start feeling what? You start feeling shame. You start feeling shame for yourself because you're like, wow, okay, I'm still not enough love and light. I'm still not enough. I haven't worked enough on myself. I'm still in my healing journey. Wow, I hold spaces for other people, but somehow I cannot even listen to my parent talking about other people. Oh my God, I'm such a bad person. So what does it create? It creates shame. This belief, if this belief becomes toxic, makes us ultimately feel very bad about us. It makes us feel shameful about our feelings, ultimately. Now, let's give you an example from my personal life. In my personal life, I had, especially in my relationships with people, which also comes out, of course, in my romantic relationship, because romantic relationships are always kind of the magnified version of how you, what you're dealing or how you show up in relationships in general. And what I used to do, and I'm still working on it, is to always understand everything. So I understood when, someone was behaving not well, was not speaking the truth, was, I don't know, you name it, yeah? Somehow I always fell into the role of, okay, I'm Mona, I understand you, And because I understand you, I cannot be angry with you. And because I understand you, I will not take any action because I truly understand where this comes from. And I went so much into my empathy and into my role of trying to understand the other person that I completely forgot about asking myself the question, okay, but apart from the fact that you understand your partner, that from my case that I understood Patrick or understood my mother or understood whoever, I completely forgot to ask myself, okay, and what does that mean still? Do you accept this kind of behavior, even though you understand where it comes from? But do you accept it? Do you tolerate it? Do you want it? Is it okay for you? Does it hurt you? So I completely neglected myself in this whole process. So what I want to show you here is that sometimes we confuse being in pure love and showing love and light with a trauma response. Because that was Mona, the small Mona, the little Mona that was too scared to speak up for herself, that was used to sacrifice her own needs for other people, that preferred to make herself invisible rather than standing up and showing herself and saying what she needs and what she feels, because she was scared to lose people, because this is what happens as children, right? We're so dependent, so we learn certain strategies, we apply certain strategies to survive. And for some, in my case, my trauma response was to freeze in a way, and to go into this over-pleasing mode, to become the good girl. So very important thing here to differentiate, that I had to learn to differentiate, which is, okay, is this really love here, or is this just me not facing the trauma that I'm kind of still addicted to, that is still within me? And so first learning for me here is to make this differentiation and to look at things from a different perspective. Yeah. So for example, when we have the New Age love and light perspective onto triggers, it is, you had the trigger, we had the response, which was basically, the response was maybe a negative feeling, like a feeling of being angry, sad, or whatever, following another response inside of you, which is maybe shame, because you're pointing fingers at yourself, because you're like, oh wow, my God, I'm still having triggers. I'm so bad. I'm not as spiritual as I thought. And then, and that's the point here now, that usually leads to becoming passive, because then you're just like, oh no, it's not him, it's not her, it's me. So then you're passive, and you're like, you go into over guilt, and you end up in this spiral of never stopping working on certain patterns. Yeah, maybe you've outgrown them already, but you keep yourself in certain patterns because you always look for the guilt inside of you. And the other perspective that I would like to offer you today, which is the perspective that I also had to learn, which I like to call it, the meta-consciousness perspective, the creator perspective, which is when we grow out of this always being in love and light, or that's the point, maybe understanding that love has a lot of different faces, it has a lot of different attributes, and love is not always just to understand. Sometimes love is to take action. Sometimes love means to be responsible, but also responsible for your own feelings, for your self-love as well. Standing up for yourself, that's also love. Love is not always something that you give to someone. It is something that ultimately you are and ultimately you embody. So when, for example, there is a trigger, we need to learn to differentiate between when is it the time to really just, maybe sometimes it's also okay just to be passive, and sometimes it might really also be something that you really need to work on still, but sometimes, and let me tell you, especially for people who've been doing a lot of self-work already, I can tell you many times it's simply about the sign that it's time for you to outgrow this pattern. It's time for you to stay stuck in your childhood pattern, in your childhood trauma, and it's time to grow up and do something about it. So what I mean in my case, for example, was this being active and taking responsibility for myself was to say stop, take the time to really analyze the situation or the many situations, because this was, of course, this kind of over-sacrificing myself and over-sacrificing, ignoring my own feelings for the sake of keeping a relationship, or for the sake of, not losing people. I kind of, it was reflected to me back in many different ways, not only in my romantic relationship, but basically in all of my relationships. And I stopped and I was like, okay, Mona, if this topic is being reflected to you, is being reflected back to you all the time, maybe it's not about you just being a bad person, and it's you that having triggers, and you are not enlightened enough, and you're not balanced enough. Maybe there's a different message. Maybe it's about saying no. Maybe being spiritual sometimes means to also be able to know and set your boundaries under the name of love, in a loving way. And that for me was really the key, because then I understood, okay, my over-sacrificing was a trauma response. So what I had to do was to grow up. I had to grow up. This little girl, Mona, had to grow up and become a woman. And a woman has boundaries. And a woman knows what she accepts and what she does not. A woman knows her values and she stands up for her values. And in my case, that meant to say sometimes, and to start saying it especially, because this is my 2026, it's going to be all about that, is to understand that I can still love someone. I can love someone from afar, but I don't have to have this person in my life. And especially if this person showed a certain behavior that just does not align with my values. And I think I used to be a person that was really, and is, very understanding, because I have so much empathy, and I can really understand people and their behavior and where they're coming from. But then to ask also the question, okay, and my empathy can never be the excuse for a misbehavior of someone else. So the grown-up Mona, the grown woman, really needs to start saying, I love you, and fuck off. And with this in mind, there are a few things that I want to say out loud, because as you know, this podcast for me is not only something that I do for others, it's primarily actually something I do for myself, to speak my truth, to use my voice. And there are a few things that I have in mind that I want to say out loud, kind of to keep myself accountable, which is, I will not tolerate anymore when people come and steal my work. And I mean, like, to an extent where it almost is plagiarism. I'm not going to go into detail. It's just for me to speak out these words, and I will take legal action if I see this happening again, because this happened more than once. Vienna is very small, and just because I didn't say anything doesn't mean I didn't see it. So I will not accept any kind of stealing my work without involving me and maybe asking me. I do understand that we all want to get inspiration from each other, but there is a line between inspiration and plagiarism and copying. There is a line, people. Another thing that I want to speak out loud is that I will not tolerate untruthful behavior, people lying to me. And with lying, I also mean hiding the truth from me. Neither from my partner, nor from my students, nor from my family, not from anyone, whoever. I will just not tolerate it. And if I encounter people that do hide the truth from me, that do not speak the truth, plus, especially about things that affect me, I will not tolerate this. Yeah, I think these are the two most important things for me, where I will keep myself accountable and say, I love you, and fuck off. And all of this for you now to reflect on, what is something where you find yourself stuck? What is a trigger that you have that comes up very often? Maybe, because usually this is how life works, right? Like, triggers is not something we experience once. It's usually one trigger and it shows up in very different ways. And I invite you to take your time, sit down with it, reflect on it, and really ask yourself, what is the lesson behind? And not in a way of, oh, I'm so bad still, but really in a way of, maybe it's maybe the way how I approach it. What phase of love can I use for this trigger? Is it appropriate to be in the phase of love that says, I understand, I accept, it's all okay? Or is it maybe a situation or a trigger that asks you to use the phase of love that says, no, I don't want it anymore? One of my teachers, he always used to say that life is about your clear yeses and nos. You need to know what's your yes, you need to know what's your no. Once you have that clear, life is very easy and life aligns. But the problem is, first of all, often we don't know what's our yes and no. And secondly, then we don't stand up for them, and especially not for our no's. So I invite you, reflect, what are the triggers? What phase of love can you use to actually encounter them? Understanding that, yes, we are love and light, but maybe today I want to use the phase of love that is saying no. End of story. That is saying fuck off. And become very clear about your yeses and your nos. Yeah. I hope this episode was helpful for you. It was definitely helpful for me to speak about my learning, because this is a topic that is really not easy for me. It's really something I've been encountering over the years, over and over again, and it's been extremely important to raise my voice and to make myself accountable, to stand up for myself, to grow up, and to understand that love has various phases, and that you can love someone from afar, that liking someone and loving someone are also two different things. You can love someone but not like them. And that ultimately your yeses and nos are here for you to create the life that you really want to live. And the more you learn to say no to the things that really do not resonate with you, that really go against your values, that the more you stand up and you say no, they will also stop occurring. So also here, often the triggers are here to show you, I'm just here for you to finally say no. So in that sense, I wish you, whenever you hear this, I wish you, Happy New Year 2026, Happy New Year, and that you get very clear on your yeses and your nos, that you understand what's the difference between love and trauma, and that you choose love in and with all its phases. And very happy to hear any comments, any reflections. If you want to hold yourself accountable for what you do not want to tolerate anymore because it does go against your values, feel free to reach out to me, text me on Instagram, put it in the comments below. I was very happy to connect and see how my journey might also help you in yours.